Welcome to a brand new episode of the M&A Mastermind Podcast, where we dive deep into the latest trends and strategies to take your firm to the next level.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to part 2 of the year in review at the M&A Mastermind Podcast. I hope you enjoyed part 1. We had a lot of great conversations and was able to share some of those highlights. Looking forward to today's episode where we dive into 4 more topics, 5 more things that will help you level up your M&A practice. So get out your popcorn and enjoy. This first clip was a conversation I had with our founder, Scott Bushke. We've talked internally here at Cornerstone International Alliance about being able to hire the right advisor the first time. If you don't, it can cost you a lot of time, effort, energy, and money. So how do you hire the right advisor? Well, why is this in this conversation with Scott, we talked about why this decision is, so critical to the success of your M&A practice. What are the key, components to what an M&A advisor does? They need to develop trust and rapport with your clients. And then how we use behavioral science to really come up with the job description of a rockstar M&A advisor. So listen in. This is not one conversation you're going to want to miss. What are the implications of not hiring that right fit based on, whatever, if you're not using the science behind hiring an advisor? What are some of the implications that you have seen in your experience that not having the right person and what that looks like for the company?
I mean, it is absolutely night and day. When you have the right hire and you can onboard them right and you get them up and they understand you take the time, they understand your system, they understand who does what and what they're responsible for, what they're accountable for, and that's their passion and they're really good at it, and you just turn them loose, it can bring in so much money for you, and you can be so hands off. You hold them accountable, you meet weekly, make sure that you remove any hurdles that they have or any roadblocks or answer any questions, but then you just let them go and you have your time to yourself to do other things versus you make a bad hire, you're doing all this training, you're doing all this onboarding, and they still don't get it. So now, okay, well, let me help you. Let's work a deal together. Well, you'll get all the commission, and I'll just help you. Well, all of a sudden, you're doing a deal that you could have done yourself and kept 100% of the commission as an M&A owner. And you do that not just once, but twice or 3 times. And then they might end up leaving anyways, or, they're complaining that, geez, I'm not making as much money as I thought here. Well, it's because you're just not a right fit, or you're not putting in the time or effort, or you just don't have the wiring or the skill sets to do it. So it is such a, think of I just heard this analogy yesterday from one of our board members. Think of, you either have engines are driving the company forward at a high rate of speed, or you got anchors, and anchors are just holding the company back. And at some point, you've got to anchors become engines, or you got to cut the anchor line. And that's hard to do, if you don't like to have tough conversations, which I'm much better at now than I was, 10, 15 years ago. But it is people think, that they're on 100% commission, so it won't cost me anything. But the amount of time it costs you, the amount of stress it costs you, if they don't perform, the damage to your reputation that it costs you out in the marketplace is significant. You can't put a dollar amount on it. So it's not just, geez, we just burned through $100,000 salary. It's so much more than that. It'd be great if that was all it was, and you had all your time and there's no reputation damage or anything else. But it's there's a lot of intangibles that you just get beat up on by making the wrong hire and allowing them to stay on after a reasonable period of time to try to prove themselves out.
Yeah, it sounds like there maybe you experienced a little bit of that and maybe brought you to where you are today as far as how you're looking to hire advisors. But was there a situation or a reason why you wanted to hire differently, and you got to work with the local firm that does behavioral science? We've done this benchmarking for, like, what got you to that point?
Beating my head against the wall and not being successful, going, man, I'm hiring really good people. They've got great backgrounds. They've really good, nice people, very professional, but just didn't work out, and so I think, you do something enough. And I just kind of, in my gut, knew there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way than just your gut feel to see if someone could come on board. And to your, you mentioned the behavioral science, to be able to have, and there's nothing that's a silver bullet, but to be able to look at things objectively through proven science, it just gives you so much better confidence that it is or isn't a fit. And then where there's, they're never gonna be perfect. So now where there's gaps or where there might be issues, it gives you the questions, the predetermined questions to ask to dive deep into that issue. So now you've identified it. You can ask great questions around it that they provide for you, and even then put together a plan of, okay, hey, we know you're light here. This is a weakness. Great. Let's identify it. It's not a gotcha. It's not I'm smarter than you or vice versa. It's just, hey, we're all built differently. But now let's put together a program on how we can shore that up and help that. Or we have a partner. We have a strategic partner, or we have someone on our team that's really good at that. So when it comes to that stage of the process, you'll partner with them because they'll be able to help you with that better than you could do it yourself. So it just, it's a cool opportunity when you get to a certain size, or you just make the investment. Again, it's an investment. It's not free. I'd say it's actually very economical for how much you're spending with time. I'd say it's the cheapest investment you can make to help people know if they're going to be successful and give you and your company the best chance of being successful.
Definitely worth that upfront, cost as opposed 100%. To the opportunity cost of not getting it right. Like you said, it's definitely more cost effective to do it that way for sure. The next clip is from one of our European member firms, Michael Klump at pt.2 based in Germany. Now, you can probably judge by their name that they are an industry specialist in the technology space. It is becoming ever more prevalent in M&A, and how do we, value and sell, technology firms. So we are very blessed to have Michael and Sandra and their group in Cornerstone International Alliance. And Michael really kind of, peeled back the onion and showed us and talked about how the technology industry is different than, say, your manufacturing company. So one thing that was important to him, and one reason why they joined the alliance, was the importance of having a presence in the United States. Deal structure is very important. Like I mentioned, how do you value it? How do you, create how to create a deal structure that's right for not only the seller and the buyer. And then, what are those buyer types? Who are the players in the technology industry that you want to get your deals in front of? So hope you enjoy this conversation. Michael really gave us an in-depth insight into the industry that they specialize in. If someone is presented with an opportunity in the IT space or the technology space, what are some things that, when they're talking with the potential client, what should they look for, ask to understand if this is an opportunity that's ready to sell now, or, maybe, in the not so distant future?
I would say there are two key things which you should keep in mind if you try to sell a technology company. The one thing is, if you go and look at the market, then you can see if M&A deals are happening in this sector in the last 12 months. If nothing happened there, it might be a signal that it's not the best time to sell your company right now, because there might be no buyer available or interested. So seeing market activity in the M&A sector, seeing deals happening in your sector where you try to sell your company is one key thing that shows you that there's a market and potential buyers are there in the market. And the other thing is that your product, solution, or your company itself is growing. Your product gets new clients. And the best thing always in the technology sector is this internationally well-known, especially in the venture capital sector, well-known rule of 40%. So you should have a growth rate together, or if you add the growth rate percentage together with your profitability percentage, then you should come out around 40%. And if you have such a 40% growth rate, or in combination profitability rate percentage, then your company is always, let's say, an extremely interesting target for potential buyers.
Yeah, that's a great stat. Good to know, because Obviously, objective measures are great to know. So if someone is below that percentage rate, is it an automatic, hey, no, you're not ready, or is there not still an opportunity, but you might have some other, uniquenesses or, structured deal items that you might want to consider?
Yes, then you should know that probably the valuation might be lower, and that's basically the key thing. If there's a lot of interest in the market, it's not let's say a no-go to go into the market if you don't have this 40% rule. But then you should be aware that your valuation will be much more lower than if you have this 40%.
When you're working with a seller and maybe their profitability is below that 40%, are you guys typically working with them to maybe enhance the value somehow, some way to get it over that? Maybe it takes a bit of time, 6, 12, 18 months to get them there, but is that some of the work you're doing with them to help them get there? And if so, what are some common things in a technology company that you recommend they do to increase that value?
Yeah, yes, we do this, and we help them and tell them what they can do to increase this percentage. And it's always a mix, or if you add the profitability percentage together with the growth rate, then you should come out at 40%. If you don't do this, you have to think how you can increase your sales, or how you can increase your profitability. And if you have those two key measures in mind, then there are several things you can do to increase these percentages, or increase your growth rate, increase your profitability. And we help them, our clients, to achieve this or have a better percentage, and therefore a higher chance to find a buyer and get a higher valuation.
What are some common things you would recommend they do when you're having this conversation with them?
Let's say lower your investments in new products, because if you would like to sell now, if you try to develop a new software solutions or other kind of products, and they are not ready to get into the market and have first clients, you shouldn't do this before you start a sell process to sell your company, because then you only have the cost, but you can't show the profitability, or if potential clients are willing to buy this solution. So you should rather decrease your research and development spending. That's on the one hand side. On the other side, you should try to get additional sales guys on board, and intensify your sales process and get new clients, and bigger clients, larger clients. That's the key thing, I would say.
Yeah, good advice. I would imagine it's hard. A couple of hard things, because technology business owners, you think they want to keep developing and growing and offering these new capabilities and features and all that. So I would imagine that's hard for them to do. But you guys are the experts, and they should definitely take that knowledge to heart. This next clip is with Shauna Balady with Paragon Software Advisors. She dives into the importance of building an industry expertise and how that can help your M&A practice, how you can be viewed as, the best of the best in your industry, and how that helps gain clients. And that industry is the software industry. That's a very unique industry. Like I mentioned previously with technology, and Michael and his team, Shauna and her team, is very similar. They've really kind of dug their heels in deep in the software industry and became industry experts based on the work that they did prior to creating their M&A practice. And then lastly, they have an amazing setup where they're very philanthropic. They donate a lot of their proceeds from their deals to charities that are very important to them. So learn more about Shauna, the software industry, and their firm, and how they are set up. Yeah, and that's going to kind of be my next question. How has your deep industry focus helped you I guess, two-part question. One, acquire clients, but two, like you just said, attract buyers, like quality buyers that will be a good fit for your clients, post-sale.
Yeah. So the good thing, and maybe part of it is due to age and where I am in my career, but also the journey that I've been on, right? I've been in software for the past 15 plus years. Over that time, you develop a number of relationships. And having recently led the technology partnership group at Aviva, all those include a number of smaller software companies. So we've been fortunate that a lot of those contacts have reached out to me and said, hey, we're looking for an exit strategy. We know you know us already because you signed us up as a partner. We know you have a Rolodex because you know who all the competitors are. And so with that experience and kind of my prior positions, having led strategy and M&A, and also an understanding of the technology in the marketplace, that's why the Rolodex is there for people to reach out to me. And then on the flip side, in terms of identifying the buyers, I sat on that side of the table. So I know the story that I want to hear. And so we know the story that we need to put together that's going to appeal to those buyers. Okay, because I looked at those packets when they came across my email. And so that's why people have come to us is one, they know we've done a lot of deals. Two, we've been very successful on deals. They know there's already a jump start because we're familiar with the industry and the companies and we've got the buyer context already. And so, that mitigates the overall risk and hopefully that drives to more optimal outcome that they're looking for, not just value, but there are other factors that people are thinking about with respect to their employees, customers, and the impact that these companies have on the community after they sell.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not, I said, it's not always about the end number. It's also about the structure and how that works. You said your Rolodex is very significant. For you guys, when you're looking to attain clients, how much of that comes from your network and your Rolodex, and how much actual outreach do you guys do to attract and attain clients?
Yeah, it's probably 50-50. Again, we march to a different beat, I think, than most advisory firms because we're very philanthropic and us, giving a significant portion of our fees away after we cover our costs. We basically donate to one of 8 charities. We approach things very differently. So our 50% our go-to-market, believe it or not, is done through revenue share arrangements. So, I have buddies and friends that are very well connected. They were very successful entrepreneurs. And a lot of times entrepreneurs hang out with other entrepreneurs, right? Because they're thinking about the next idea. And so what we've done is we put a number of revenue share agreements in place where we basically said to people, hey, if you bring us an opportunity, we vet it out, they decide to retain us, we'll kick you, a certain percentage of the success fee and the retainer as well, which our retainer is fairly minimal. It's all really on the success fee. And so by doing that, I have a bunch of friends that are older than me, have a broad Rolodex like me, and so they're basically pounding the pavement just by going to have coffee and having dinners and teaming up with their network. And half the deals that we're looking at are because of those contacts.
That's amazing. And you mentioned the big Rolodex and your charitable component to your company. That I've heard you say this too. That also allows you to take on maybe not always the cleanest of deals, right? You're willing to take some risk and kind of get a little dirty and help out firms that need it.
Yeah, we have one client in kind of the self-diagnostic medical arena. It's an e-commerce business that really grew with COVID, and obviously things have changed that there's not as much fear and anxiety. So the number of test kits that are sold are probably a fraction of what they were back in 2020. And so there's a company that supplied those. And they obviously grew thinking COVID was going to be here to stay, and so their balance sheet is out of whack. And so with that, most, if not probably 99% of the advisory firms wouldn't touch them, right? Because it's high risk. We didn't even ask for a retainer. We're basing everything on success. And maybe me being a mother, this is a mother with a young child, right? Another woman, they've been very successful in 2 other exits. We want to do right and help them out. And so that's why we took on this engagement where probably most people would turn away is with our soft heart, I think we really want to do good. And so some of the things that Paragon's willing to look at, we're willing to look at, again, we're very philanthropic. We're willing to do it because we want to help people out and have that positive impact.
Mm-hmm. And I would imagine just that mindset has brought you opportunities, probably more so than not, than you would have had. And our last episode on part 2 of the year in review of the M&A Mastermind podcast is talking about the people side of deals. Shara Heaton with SB Liftoff, based in the United States over in Virginia, came on the show and talked about the importance of managing emotions in a deal. Do not ignore those. Those play a big role, as this is the biggest transaction of your client's life, most likely. And buyers and finding the right buyer that will not only, identify, but understand the importance of your client's accomplishments, the business that they've built, and the importance of legacy and why that's important to your client. And really finding the right buyer that believes in that. And then, like I said, the human side of deals, there's a lot of emotions, ups and downs, and, sadness and anger and happiness and all those sort of things that, come up in the course of a transaction, and why it's important not to ignore those things, but to really manage those emotions and make sure that your client is having the best experience possible. I hear a lot of M&A advisors say we're just as much, M&A advisors as we are psychologists, because there is such a big, emotional component to this. And, even how does that affect, I would imagine, to add on top of that, correct me if I'm wrong, Sharon, but, as a business owner, you spend so much time in the business, working on the business. What do you do when you sell? Like, I got all this time, my changes not only for myself, but maybe for my spouse and my kids and all that sort of stuff. Like, it changes your world. And taking that, ignoring that as an M&A advisor, you're not doing your job, for your client. And it sounds like you understand that all that comes into play, and you talk about that early on, correct?
It's incredibly important. And let me go back to kind of first principles here. It may be that talking about these emotions and all the rest is kind of soft stuff. But the reality is that these soft issues can kill deals. I'm sure that most of the people in the audience have worked on a transaction for a while and had the seller back out in the last couple of days or weeks because the seller was scared. The seller didn't know what they were going to do with their life after the transaction. You've got to own and help the seller get past these issues, or you run the possibility of it blowing up on you in the last moment. So it's not simply that these are good people issues to deal with, and we need to be concerned about people's emotional stability and all the rest of that. I truly believe that. But I also believe that there's a hardcore business aspect to it, because our job is closing deals. And the emotional issues that sellers feel, the fear and uncertainty, the loss of identity, the feeling judged and inadequate, can cause deals to kind of go awry. They're almost as important as the two things we all know about. Time, too much time, and surprises kill deals. But you know what? So do sellers who are losing control of their emotions because they don't understand what's going on. So we as M&A advisors really need to own that and make that path a little bit smoother for them.
Can you elaborate on that? As M&A advisors, you said own that and make that path a little bit smoother. What are some ways in which you and your team do that with your clients?
Great question. I was talking to an M&A advisor recently who said, God, if I could just get rid of the crazy, it would be so much easier to be an M&A advisor. To which I said, yeah, that's completely true, but that's like child rearing. If I could just get rid of the emotions and the crazy kid stuff, it'd be so much easier. The reality is we need to take our sellers as they come. And as they come, generally, are people who are experts in their business and are getting ready to do the biggest financial transaction of their life in a field that they don't know anything about. So the idea is to give them as much guidance and support and knowledge, tell them things before they need to know it. So when they hear about networking capital or reps and warranties or whatever the issue might be, it's not the first time that they're hearing it. We basically spend a lot of time educating our sellers, often before we actually sign them up, because we need to make sure that when we're making a judgment to bring on a client, that that's a deal that we can get closed. So we're looking at the company. Is the company sellable? Is the valuation reasonable? Is the client one that is going to lose their mind and blow it all up? Or is the client one who really wants to be able to do a transaction, has fear, uncertainty, and all those concerns, but that we can help guide through this process? So there's a huge amount of discussion and education. And then we tell people the same thing multiple times. I turn to our clients and say, you built your company. We did not. You're going to know more about your company, and I'm going to ask you the same questions 2 and 3 and 5 times, things that'll be annoying to you because you know this, but you're going to have to explain it to us. In contrast, we know M&A. We understand net working capital, current assets minus current liabilities, and that there are tricks to the trade and cash and other issues. They don't know anything about that. How many sellers have said, they're buying my company. Why do I need to leave anything behind? The reality is we need to educate our sellers and the buyers as to what the market norms are, so that when the other side is saying, I need this, it's not coming out of the blue. They have some understanding of what that's about. A very small example. I was working on a transaction and I had not told the seller in advance about tail insurance. Now, tail insurance in the scheme of things is a relatively minor issue. It's basically something that the seller has to buy that will keep the old insurance policies in place for past periods. And sellers have said to me, I don't want to do that. I'll just take the risk that something will come up. And buyers at this point almost always want tail insurance. We did not discuss it with one client. It became an issue. We ultimately were able to get over that concern. But we now talk about tail insurance at the very early part of the process and say, listen, you don't need to worry about it now, but you need to know that this is probably a cost that's going to come up towards the end of the transaction when you're already feeling like you've given a lot, the other side's given a lot, you're getting a little bit towards deal fatigue. Just know this is coming. And since we've started doing that, we've never had a problem with tail insurance coming up at the end.
Yeah, I mean, your point is well taken to try to get everything out in the open, early on and educate them as to what are the possibilities. Obviously, there will be inevitably some things that come up that you don't expect or you might not have talked
Always.
about. But how you handle it, just like you explained, is also, an art form as well. And that is it for part 2 of the year in review at the M&A Mastermind Podcast. Thank you for listening in. Hopefully, some of those conversations spark some, reminders of the past episodes that you've listened to, and really kind of brought together some of the highlights of a great year on this show. Be sure to tune into all of our episodes every Thursday morning, 9 a.m. Central Time is when our episodes go live. Be sure to check out all of our shows in 2025. I'm really excited for our current guest list. If you're interested in being a guest on the M&A Mastermind Podcast, reach out to us and we'll definitely have a conversation to get you on the show. Like I said, this show is designed around educating the M&A advisor to help them take their practice to the next level. Until next time, everybody, take care and thank you for joining.